here we go. This is going to be our first coach interview of the season. Here we have Shawn Bromelkamp from the boys soccer team, and they kick off home opener tomorrow night versus Concordia Academy. We'll get to that in a second, but Shawn, this is year number what for you here at KM?
Year number 4. Year number 3 is head coach, and before that I was in the program as a junior high head coach.
Right. Okay, so before that, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into soccer, where you graduated from, a little bit of that.
Sure, I have always played soccer. There was never a time where I wasn't playing soccer. I went to school at Zumbrota Mazeppa, so I played for PIZM, the Pism Wildcats growing up. Went through the ranks there, junior high, varsity, playing there for 3 years. And then during my student teaching experience, I happened to be placed in Pine Island Middle School when I was going to school to be a teacher, and became a student teacher there and became an assistant junior varsity coach at PIZM, and after that a junior high coach here and then varsity coach here.
I remember that just a few years ago, right when we were getting started, so awesome. All right, so just a little bit about coaching. What can you kind of pinpoint as one thing that really fuels you and is the most rewarding thing for you in terms of coaching?
When my assistant coach was around the other day, I told him that that's one of the most things that makes me the most proud, because we were all just kind of, kids were shooting around on the goal, and we were just kind of talking. I was setting up cones for a drill and stuff like that, and then all the players, especially led by the captain, said, "All right guys, it's time for us to start practice. Let's get warmed up." And that makes a coach really proud when, like you say, in preparation, focus, let's always be trying to improve, and then they get themselves to do it without needing to be prodded to it. Whenever you're trying to instill doing the right thing at the right time and the players just do it, that's something that really makes a coach proud.
Outstanding. Empowering the kids to be the leaders. Well, that question was a couple more down, but let's talk about those leaders. Who do you bring back, and how do you set up your captains or some of your main leaders leading the troops this year?
Sure. We've got 3 captains this year. We decided to go with 3 captains instead of 2 like we've done the past 2 years, kind of so that there's a tiebreaker. If the 2 captains have an idea of what to do, sometimes they just butt heads and then we don't know what to do, but with 3 captains, they communicate a little bit more. If there's one that might be sick, there's still 2 captains leading the show. Jacob Goodman is a senior captain this year. Another senior captain is Abraham Ellenheisen, and a junior captain, Nels Karstensen. You can get leadership from roles without the title of captain, but we like to say to those captains that they are kind of an extension of what our coaching staff is. They run things by us all the time, and we run things by them, and there's just something to it that you know who the leadership role is expected from, but you can really see that from players throughout the season in different circumstances.
Definitely. They kind of give that pulse of the team, and you can kind of gauge how's morale and bounce your ideas off them. That sounds good. Well, I definitely know that they've put a lot of time into soccer in the off-season.
Definitely.
When I walk back and forth from school to home, I know all 3 of them were involved in a camp with Rick, and also put a lot of time into the fitness center as well, conditioning themselves and getting bigger, faster, stronger for the season. So I know they put a lot of time in the summer. Tell me about the first couple weeks of practice you guys have had. You know, we started last Monday and battled through a few humid days the last few days, but maybe just pinpoint a couple things that you've been impressed with.
Well, to piggyback off of what you were just saying there about the time they put in, they weren't just captains who were like, let's do captain's practice during the last 2 weeks before practice starts. They were doing practice all of July, and they were sending out messages on team snaps, so everybody 7th grade through 12th grade knew, here's a scrimmage time, here's a time where we're going to the weight room, here's a time where we're practicing on the turf. And the captains were really focused on not only improving their skills, but making everybody around them better. I know that there were players on junior varsity and varsity who came up to me without being prodded or asked or anything like that. They said, you know, Jacob really invited me to, you know, play soccer some more. Jacob really worked on my skills. Or Abraham was really trying to get us to improve in certain areas. and to see the captains think this isn't just about me getting better, this is about making the whole team be better. It really showed during those first 2 weeks that we've had so far. There were a lot of players who I know where their skill was at the end of last fall, and they're just leaps and bounds ahead as far as ball control, conditioning, smart moves, shots on goal. And I think a lot of that has to do going back with the leadership of we're all getting better instead of just you're getting better, I'm getting better.
That's awesome. I think it was the wise Mr. Hodge used to say, when nobody leads, it's a bad team. When the coaches lead, it's a good team. When the players really become the leaders, you become a great team.
It can be a great team.
That's great to hear. Let's just talk a little bit of some specific positions, maybe goalie, and then work up through the defensemen and the mids and then the forwards. I know it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of the year, but tomorrow you got to put 11 out there to start the game. So let's hear about that.
Start at goalie there. We are probably going to switch back and forth a little bit between goalies this year. We haven't done that in the past 2 seasons. We kind of just knew who our goalie was. But we've got 2 players in particular, Lars Ingram, who's a sophomore, and Dalton Osgard, who's a senior, who both played a little bit of goalie. Dalton mostly all of last year, and then Lars to finish it because we needed to move some personnel around because of injuries and stuff like that. Both of them are the rare player who can play really well in the goal and really well in the field, which is why I want to see switching back and forth between the 2 of them, because Lars and Dalton are both strong goalies. Dalton got an all-conference vote for goalie last year, and I told him that, saying, like, you're getting recognized for making good plays in goal and being a leader. But both of them can play midfield. Both of them could be a defensive player, and they're just as skilled in those positions as they would be in goal, making a difference back there too. So we're probably going to be switching around a little bit throughout the season with those 2. Going up, if we're just going up the line here, we got maybe one of our top defenders might be Tim Schultz. Last year, I've said this a lot, Tim kind of saved our butts a couple of times last season. If we were caught out of position or there was a fast break on one side, Tim is one of the fastest guys on the field, and he can just sprint and catch right back up to him. We'll have some leadership back there, like when Dalton's not playing goalie, he might be playing defense.
Okay.
Defensive mid spots are probably going to be seeing some play from Captain Nels and Captain Abraham. And then in the central midfield spot, we've got Jacob, who I think is a core player who will probably never ask to be taken out of a game, never be too tired to do it. He's got a motor, he's up and down the field, he's taking shots, and then he's all the way back on the other end trying to save a goal too. We've got some returning players like Ethan Petersley up front and Victor Rodriguez up front. Josh Buchel's a sophomore up front who only played, I believe, 4 games for us last year and put in 4 goals, including a hat trick in one of those games. And so we've got some high expectations for some of those guys. Some of them are returning, and we sprinkle in some young talent to develop too.
Awesome. That'll be exciting. Yeah, a lot of familiar names that we saw around on the field, on the varsity field last year. So bring that veteran leadership back will be important. Okay, well, just a couple more things. Your opponent is Concordia Academy out of Roseville. We played them a couple years ago. Went up there. And I believe it was a really close game. I don't remember the exact score, but
2-1.
Yeah, 2-1. Okay, so we know he remembers. Know anything about them? How do you feel going in?
Well, I remember them a little bit better. Maybe I try to remember scores of games from the past years, but Concordia Academy was the first ever game I ever coached as the head varsity coach.
You remember that one.
So I'm gonna remember that one. And we didn't see them last year. I think we were originally scheduled to play them last year, then the COVID schedule came out. We had to change our opponents, if I remember correctly, because we had to play fewer games. And so I don't have a lot of intel on them other than what they did 2 years ago and how they played 2 years ago. I felt like that was a game that we could have won. I believe we got the first goal in. I believe it was a David Perdomo goal who graduated that year. And so we felt good having the lead, and then right at the end we kind of gave it up. 2 years ago I remember a team that we were right neck and neck with, but I feel like this is leaps and bounds a better team than we were 2 years ago as far as talking about us. I can look at some of their records and game scores and things like that, but we don't have a lot of common opponents either. So it's tougher to know what we're in store for. But I've told the guys all week I expect us to get a win, and then they get riled up and like, yeah, we're gonna win, and they're gonna drive all the way down here this time, and we're gonna take it this time, and I hope and think and believe that we're gonna start the season on a high note.
Awesome.
With a win.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. Okay, one last thing, kind of a fun little thing here. If there were one kind of familiar slogan that you say during practice, at games, just around the kids, what would the kids say that it would be that you say? I mean, I can think of ones that I hear from other coaches once in a while, but what would they say?
Well, I know during tryouts week and for a lot of practices, we usually finished our day on a build-up. So you start on one end of the field and you slowly jog and you start building up speed until you're sprinting at the end.
Okay.
And I don't want this to be like my coaching mentality, but I said that apparently enough times where at the end of practice someone said, I know what Mr. D's going to say, what's the best way to finish practice? And then the kids answered build-up. I try to do things like do your job, know your role. Something I've repeated a handful of times over the years is we can't always be perfect players. We can't always be the perfect passers, perfect shooters. We can't always be the strongest or the fastest. But we can always control being perfect sportsmen, perfect gentlemen, and hopefully perfect comets. And together we can come up with what it means to be a comet. The other day we were in my classroom and we as a team wrote our team constitution, what expectations were on the field, off the field, consequences for it, and creating an impression that other teams remember is not only do they play hard, but they're respectful towards others and they're playing the game the right way. And even if you're not a perfect player, remember that you can be a perfect comet at the same time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Coach. I know it's
Absolutely.
busy, workshop week.